Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. And feedback is greatly important. Appreciate all you listeners out there. Please reach out to me. Either email, Substack, X, and of course, fill up those comments on YouTube. List some of the audio platforms, and it'd be greatly appreciated if you give me ratings on that. Spreaker, of course, Spotify. I'm on Pandora, Amazon Music, and I'm looking to grow to where you enjoy your podcast content. I'm on that, and of course YouTube. Greatly appreciated. All right, so this episode is centers around Super Tuesday, the origin and everything else. Give my thoughts, perspectives, and also my thoughts about voting. Here we go. And this launches, to add on to this launches the month of November. And so I'm going to do different themes this month instead of primarily focusing on the big ticket item, which is Thanksgiving. I'm just going to do different events that go on November particularly, and then the origin of it. And, have it all build up to the big day, Thanksgiving. And have Thanksgiving themed content along with that. All right, here we go. All right. Okay. So, voting. Everything. The aspects of political commentary. The aspects of politics in itself. Thoughts. All right. So, I'm going to go back to me growing up, particularly in the 90s. Okay. And, the aspects of seeing things, live on TV, particularly with news. And then, you're a kid, you're like, okay, what? That's kind of weird. And then when it's brought to your attention more and more as you get older, you take a second look. So, I grew up in the era where O.J. Simpson trial, where Monica Lewinsky scandals, all of these things. So all of these sensational things, all of these true crime events were happening right before me. And so let's change the outline and the impact of how people viewed the world around them, particularly with political aspects of things. So my case in point is the aspect about Monica Lewinsky in the Bill Clinton drama with that. And so before then, when all these different women came out and they said the evidence of him doing these things of being, corrupt as far as the mistructs with the sexual aspects of conduct, with his escapades. And it's funny, with Epstein and then specifically with Diddy, how it's rumored and how there's, theories that people who are endorsing Kamala Harris, maybe they have ties to being on the P. Diddy tapes. And so what is my point for bringing all this up? So, as far as political issues and as far as viewpoints, what's happening to the aspect of getting to the heart of the matter, that getting down and breaking down to real issues about what people are actually going through, and the the constituents, the republic, people voicing their opinions about that, and having a platform to speak honestly about things. And how is it that hypocrisy is something that is prevalent to take hold of and to not call anybody out for? So, when I was younger and going through my aspects of political understanding, it was confusing to me until I got to the point where, I see things for what it is. So I had mentioned this before, but I'm going to rehash this again about the emphasis of how important this is. And I think about, going in about the political structure of voting and, all of that. So when I was 17 years old, it was a really profound moment for me. It was a substitute teacher. She said, very proudly and very confident in saying that I am Republican. And she said that I mainly, and I was in a history class, and at that time we were discussing the aspects of talking about the founding fathers and talking about the political structure of the Constitution and the Geneva Convention, all of these, all of these topics, right? Flying up, and so it, it's something that just a happenstance thing that came into the conversation. And so, she happened to be black and she happened to be a woman, and she said that I follow with this political party because you are with hard work. It doesn't matter about, how you look on the outside. It just matters what your merit is for the most part. You on the political side of that. And she wanted to be on the right side of that, and that's incredible. And so, I don't know, it's this weird thing. And it's unfortunate. For the Democratic structure, they attach their sides with I know it's obvious, that, they're the people of the uproot of the downtrodden. And unfortunately, most of these things, these ideals, are focusing on particular minority groups, particularly with blacks, Hispanics, and stuff like this, right? And so when Obama came into office, it's one of those things where naively, me and, I'm not the only one, you felt a sense of real satisfaction and pride. Now, I saw this as a pivotal point that you can't say anymore that your race is what holds you back because, Obama. But, he just proved it's disappointing. And, I started seeing things for what it is when, again, I mentioned this earlier when he said the aspect of putting things into effort with the initiative of the NASA program is something that's not prevalent or that's not productive for society. It's insane to say something like that. And then all these other things, these war tactics, these political bubbles. I mean, not these structural bubbles from the political procedures that they were doing with, as far as the debt crisis, as far as the housing bubble, all these things. And so when a man like Trump came into office, I was looking at him. I was like, I don't know what to think. And see, unfortunately, it was one of those things where, me still taking that good faith about legacy media. But when I, around 2018, I started saying, this is insane. Because it just seemed like it was just this mass hysteria of people going on a bandwagon of just saying things and attacking Trump and uplifting the democratic voice and saying they're on the right side of history, and then everybody who supports Trump or his ideas is on the wrong side of history, without any real evidence of seeing Trump as this villain. It was that. What are you saying about the heart of the matter about political issues or political structure? Do you actually care about the policy? Do you actually care about where our nation is going as people? And so that more and more said, you know what? You get to a point where you got to draw your hand and your line in the sand and say, where you want to go. And that's why I probably say I'm, on the Republican side of everything and have a conservative voice, because at the heart of the matter, it's really important to set, for all these things that are going on in political structure, to set aside differences and get into that aspect of, we might see things differently, but at the policy level of changing our country for the better, can you say you're on that side? And for the most part, Republicans are on that side. Of course, there's bad in every, candidate. Well, what I'm saying, political structure, yeah, that goes without saying. But for the most part, the Republican structure is what reigns true. And you can see this revealing itself time and time again. Even now, it's just laughable, okay, how, particularly on the Democratic side, they can say all these things. Or you're infringing on the rights of the people. You're infringing on our freedoms. You are fascist. You are this. But you notice on the Democratic side, if you want to say something honestly about, anything from COVID, anywhere from, earth, green efforts, if you don't agree with how they see things particularly, they silence you. They don't want you to speak. They don't want you to say anything else. Okay? Why is that? They don't actually believe in freedom. They don't want that. They want to, I'm not the only one that's noticing that. I'm just saying, calling things what it is. They want to break down the structure of freedom, particularly the American aspect of freedom, which is something that is unique because in the origin of the American history of our founding fathers and everything, they made these laws in the effort of understanding we are here on this new soil to create a society that is stripped away from persecution of differences. Now, what does that mean? Differences where you come from a difference of religious ideals, or you come from a difference of race, you come from a difference of class. It does not matter. You can still thrive in this land, this new fertile land, if you put in your merit and your hard work. But on the Democratic side, all the founding fathers, all they are these white men who push these innocent black people, particularly the slaves, and we are in the cuffs, and this American institution is on the back of slavery. Not that's being disingenuous, not seeing and not saying the honest truth about the situation, that with slavery, this is a thing that was abolished, it was ended. And also with slavery, not saying this, that this was a universal, global, and not only in America, but global thing, that horror that was going on everywhere. Every ethnicity was facing these things. And not saying this, that in Africa, some tribes, not most tribes, some tribes, selling out their own people for profit. And then not saying, honestly, these race hustlers of today, not saying the honest aspect of slavery still going on today in some African nations, and then, some Middle Eastern nations. And then sex trafficking is a form of slavery too. This is still going on today, and not, being prevalent into addressing this and taking care of this. And you know what? That's why it's important to really ask yourself to say, do you want to be a part of the side that no matter we have our differences, no matter what your difference is. I have a difference of opinion. You have a difference of opinion. But can we agree on that we can come together, unify together, and look at these policies and hash out these policies and come to a negotiation to where this can benefit the American public? With that said, I'm going to get into the facts about Super Tuesday. Here we go. Okay, here we go. And of course, this source will be provided for you in this episode. All right, so Super Tuesday, American politics. So I like to use the source Britannica, particularly how they break things down as in the aspects of an updated version of the encyclopedia. So that's why I tend to get most of my information from this website. So it says Super Tuesday in the United States, a Tuesday in February or March of a presidential election year on which several states hold presidential primary elections. The specific states that participate in Super Tuesday have varied because U.S. states independently determines how and when it holds primary elections. Because of the large number of presidential conventions, delegates that could be won by a single Democratic or Republican presidential candidate on Super Tuesday, the results of Super Tuesday elections often solidify the forerunner for each party's presidential nomination. Election and polling experts generally view the electoral results of Super Tuesday as strong indicators of the likely U.S. presidential nominees, owing the usual participants of large and fairly diverse voting populations. Depending on how many and which states conduct presidential primary elections on Super Tuesday, 1/3 or more of all of the delegates to either or both the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention can be won through votes cast on Super Tuesday. So the history of Super Tuesday. Presidential elections in the United States have been held on Tuesday, specifically the Tuesday following the first Monday of November, and a presidential election year since the mid-19th century, when the U.S. Congress passed a law designed to make voting in presidential elections as convenient as possible for religiously observant citizens and farmers. Among the first primary election days to be designated as Super Tuesday in certain national publications, including the New York Times, was May 25th of 76, when presidential primaries were held in 6 states. The terms Super Tuesday and Super Tuesday subsequently became increasingly common among journalists and political commentators. In the 80s, the phrase Super Tuesday was widely used to refer to primaries held in 3 states, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, on March 11th. Campaign strategies for the Democratic press, Jimmy Carter reportedly arranged the moment of 3 southern states primary, which Carter was expected to win to Tuesday after the New Hampshire Democratic Party, which strategists fear Carter might lose, thus effectively guaranteeing a reboot effect for Carter's campaign. In fact, Carter won the New Hampshire primary and swept ensuing southern primaries, but lost general presidential election to Republican Ronald Reagan. It's quite interesting, Jimmy Carter, with his aspects, with him being very diplomatic in his procedures and his policy procedures running the country, and then going in on to Ronald Reagan, saying that Ronald Reagan was the impact of being more interested in big business or corporate side, which is why is vilifying that, which is really a good thing, because at the heart of the matter, that's what American structures are built on. We work in these companies, and don't you want a president that is putting his hand on how the procedures are ran in America, and there, all of these things. And then also, if I'm not mistaken, so when, and those of you in the know, feel free to fact check me, but if I'm not mistaken, so when Reagan was running, they specifically put a law and act that you can't go on, when it's so close to the election time, and right before the dawn of all the votes are in, and then revealing who the next president is, you can't go on these public, where it be, go on news shows, go on entertainment shows. You can't do these things because that would be seen as, infiltrating or, corrupting the vote, so to speak. And so this was more prevalent when Reagan was in office because he was from Hollywood. That's where he was a notoriable, a famous actor. And so, out of fear of, his influence from Hollywood and the people he knew from Hollywood, they didn't want this in the political structure. So they came up with a legally that you cannot do these things. But that's funny. How is it that Kamala Harris was able to do this sketch this past weekend, I believe? So that doesn't look good for the Democratic Party, because it's saying that we will break laws, we will breach contracts, go as far as breaching contracts, by doing something like this. That doesn't matter, so we can gain our political force. And that's something to look at. All right, so by 1984, a movement to solidify Super Tuesday and to start front-loading state primary was underway. United States, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Nevada, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, and Washington held presidential primaries on March 13th of 1984. And which former Vice President Walter Mondale, 1928 to 2021, and Senator Gary Hart battled to become the Democratic presidential nominee, who then challenge incumbent President Reagan in the general election. By 88, cluster of the state presidential primaries is often referred to as Southern Super Tuesday, as 21 mostly southern states held primaries or caucuses on March 8th. Democratic leaders in southern states had hoped that an oversized Super Tuesday strategy would advance a centrist Democratic candidate towards the party presidential nomination. However, the strategy backfired as the moderate Senate Al Gore split the Super Tuesday vote with Reverend Jesse Jackson, which enabled Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis to take the delicate lead and eventually clinch the 1988 Democratic presidential nomination. It wasn't until March 11th of 92 that a Southern Democrat, and we're getting to Bill Clinton, was able to leverage Super Tuesday wins into a Democratic presidential nomination. It would be noted that the clear dominance in Super Tuesday primary was not always resulting in victories in presidential elections. For example, Republican Senator Bob Dole became the front runner for the Republican presidential nomination in Super Tuesday contest of 1996, and Democratic Senator John Kerry swept 9 of the 10 Super Tuesday Democratic primaries in 2004. But neither candidate went on to win the general U.S. presidential election. In 2008, 24 states shifted their presidential primaries to the first Tuesday in February, putting an unprecedented 24% of political Democratic and Republican convention delegates into play on the same day. The Super Tuesday resulted in a deadlock race for the Democratic presidential nomination between Illinois Senator, this is Barack Obama, and New York Senator Hillary Clinton, and a divided victory for Arizona Senator John McCain over Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney for the Republican presidential nomination. By the time Mitt Romney sought the Republican nomination again in 2012, Super Tuesday primaries had been whittled down to 10 states. So in 2016, Hillary Clinton surprised political experts with the definitive win over Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. And March 1st, Super Tuesday contest that included 12 states primaries. Super Tuesday in 2020 took place on March 3rd, and it is widely credited along with an earlier victory in the South Carolina primary, with securing the Democratic nomination for former Vice President Joe Biden. Biden scored divisive wins in the 9 out of 14 state primary election for the 2024 presidential election. Super Tuesday will be held on March 25th, and I'm going in on what has already happened. It was held on March 5th. So voters in 17 states and territories voted in primaries or caucuses. So criticisms of Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday election contests are often criticized as vehicles for front-loading primaries. In an effort to condense the election cycle and create unreasonable demands on presidential candidates to appeal to a wide swath of the American electoral candidates. There it is. So critics have argued that the outsized delegates hail from such geographically and demographically diverse populations of American voters not only unfairly advances the campaign of moderates or centrists, but also results in media neglect of other candidates. All right, so closing. We are at the cusp and the dawn of a new president. And so looking at this is, we're in this this is nothing new as far as crisis and debt crisis and all these aspects. But we're at a time where people are starting to wake up more and more and see things for actually what it is, and that's, it's better to just look at a candidate that actually really cares about situations. Where are we gonna go? And I think President Trump is the true embodiment of what America's all about, which is this: doesn't matter where you come from, how what sector you worked in or what have you, or how you reach your height of notoriety of success. If you really believe in the procedures of the policies of the public, you can run. He was not a seasoned political figure. He wasn't any of these things. He just really believes in the policy of the American public. He was, I can understand, from a business point of view, he's tired of going through all these legalese as far as doing something as simple as building structure. It's a nightmare. I can imagine in New York with dealing on all of the legalese of where you got people pushing back dates and when you can build building structures, and just because you gotta cut through the bureaucratic tape of where you need to get from point A to point B just to build a structure of business. That gets frustrating, and it's just very commendable that he took the initiative to want to run for presidency and won. And I'm just hoping that he will make those waves and become president again. All right, with that being said, this reaches the end of the Harboring Light, and I'd like to know all your thoughts about the structure of American voting system. Feel free to either email me, follow me on Substack, make comments on Substack, make comments on YouTube, and YouTube, of course, fill out those comments, and make comments on X. It'd be greatly appreciated. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care out there. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.